You know, we all have fears, but have you ever had a fear so big it felt like it was running your life? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. We're diving into William Douglas's incredible true story, Deep Water. It's a really powerful tale about a childhood event that turned into this lifelong terror, and more importantly, the amazing journey he took to finally beat it. So, as we get into this, I want you to think about something. What does it really, truly take to look your biggest fear right in the eye and just say, that's it, no more? Because that's the journey we're about to go on with Douglas. All right, so here's how we're going to break down his story. We'll look at it in 5 parts. First, we'll see where this fear came from, the seeds, you could say. Then, how it just took over his life. After that, the big moment when he decided to fight back. Then, the final challenge he had to face all by himself. And finally, what he learned from it all. So, let's start at the very beginning. Okay, so to really get this, we have to go back to where it all started. You know, a fear like this doesn't just pop up out of thin air, right? It's usually born from a specific moment or maybe a couple of moments. And for William Douglas, it was 2. Believe it or not, it all began when he was just a little boy, only 3 or 4 years old. He was at a beach in California with his father, and this huge wave just knocked him flat. He was completely buried in water, and that feeling, it stuck with him. It created this real aversion to water. So, fast forward a few years, he's about 10 or 11, and he decides, okay, I'm going to face this. He picks the YMCA pool because, you know, it feels safe, it's calm, it's contained. It seems like the perfect place to learn. But as we're about to find out, sometimes what looks safe is anything. So try to imagine this. There's this young boy, a little nervous, sitting all by himself next to the pool. And then this big, loud 18-year-old boy comes along. What happens in the next few seconds, just one single thoughtless act, is going to define the rest of Douglas's life. Just like that. With no warning at all, the older boy grabs him and just throws him right into the deep end, the 9-foot part of the pool. He hits the water in a sitting position, instantly swallows a mouthful, and his whole world just becomes this terrifying watery blur. And this really shows you what fear does to your mind, doesn't it? That 9 feet of water, to him, sinking down, it felt like 90. It was this bottomless pit, this awful, slow journey down into darkness. We're not just talking about being scared here. This was pure terror, the kind that freezes you. He tried to scream, but nothing came out. His legs were like stone. They wouldn't move. He was literally a prisoner in his own sinking body. He even gives it a color, a stark yellow terror. He had a plan, you know? He thought he could push off the bottom, but everything was happening in slow motion. It was agonizing. And then, nothing. He blacked out. The next thing he remembers is waking up beside the pool, hearing someone say he'd nearly died. And the bully? The reason for all this? His excuse was, oh, I was just kidding around. So you can imagine, an experience like that doesn't just go away. It wasn't just a bad day at the pool. It became this ghost that followed him for years and years, casting a shadow over everything. This fear literally stole the simple joys of life from him. Things like going fishing or canoeing or just jumping in a lake with friends. He couldn't do any of it. Anytime he even got close to water, that same terror would take hold. His legs would lock up, completely paralyzed. It was like the memory of that pool had built actual walls around him. But you can't live like that forever, right? A life run by fear isn't really living. And one day, after years of this, Douglas just decided. He made a choice. No more running. It was time to fight back. And it all started with one single powerful decision. He knew he couldn't do it by himself. He needed help, a proper plan. So, with this newfound determination, he went out and hired a swimming instructor. This was it. This was the first real step towards getting his life back. And the instructor's method was just brilliant. He took this massive, terrifying thing, swimming, and broke it down into tiny, manageable steps. First, a safety rope attached to a belt, just to build some confidence. Then, hours just practicing how to put his face in the water and breathe. Then, just kicking, holding onto the side of the pool. It was all about piece by piece. So slowly, so patiently, he wasn't just building a swimmer. He was taking apart the fear and building a whole new person. So after months of this, the instructor finally says, "You can swim now." But Douglas knew. He knew the job wasn't done. The instructor wasn't the one he had to convince. He had to convince himself. The real final exam had to be taken alone, out there in the deep, open water. His first big test was at Lake Wentworth, and he did it. He swam 2 whole miles across it. But right in the middle, when his face was underwater, that old terror came creeping back for a moment. He faced it down, and it backed off. But he still wasn't sure. The real proof, the final victory, came at a place called Warm Lake. He swam all the way across and all the way back, and this time, there was nothing. No fear at all. He just shouted with joy. It was pure triumph. The ghost was gone for good. So, when you step back and look at this whole story, what's it really about? It's about so much more than just learning how to swim, isn't it? It's really about getting to the heart of what fear is and what courage truly means. He had finally conquered his fear. And that's the key, you see. His victory wasn't over the water. It was over the terror that lived inside him. It was a completely internal battle. And winning it didn't just teach him to swim, it brought him a kind of peace that changed everything. And this is why that famous quote from Roosevelt meant so much to him. All we have to fear is fear itself. He understood that on a level most of us can't. He had felt what it was like to be on the edge of death. And what he learned was that the real horror wasn't death, it was the fear of death. The fear was the real enemy all along. And that really brings us to the core message of Deep Water. It's such a powerful story about the strength of the human spirit. It proves that no matter how deep a fear is, no matter how long you've had it, with enough willpower, with real determination, and just the sheer grit to keep going, you can overcome it. You know, a story like this, it's like a mirror. It makes you look at yourself and ask, so what's my deep water? What's the fear that's holding me back, that's keeping me from living my life to the fullest? And I think after hearing about his journey, the big question we're all left with is, are we ready to finally face it?